I've had contact throughout my life. I had the experience of the Men in Black too, right? And then in my around 22 years old, I have this experience of shambhala, which we know as the inner earth. And it's where I was taken by my hand and brought into the by a young monk and taken into this cave. And this is when I was shown the floating yogis. And I was also shown a vision of myself older with a child and pregnant. And, this was years away from me actually having that happen. And I won't get into what I was shown, but it was clear to me that there was a realm that is between the call it the super light realm and the physical. So it's a shared space of these higher level yogis, call them the floating yogis, and what's actually happening on these more dense realms here on Earth. And I was shown humanity as it was going to unfold over a period of time, which it did. I was shown some of what I will call the ills of mankind, and to be mindful and to be aware of some of those ills, to make sure that what I was carrying in me, this child, was protected from that.
Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. Well, hello there, journeyers. I hope y'all are doing well wherever you may be on this little blue planet. So much going on in this little blue planet A in the last couple of years, but it seems to be intensifying. Susan Manewich by the day. We talked a little bit with Susan Manewich, so glad to have her back, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we focused on these changes, particularly as it relates to solar activity, geomagnetic activity, et al. But if you listen to that last show, of course, we'll have a link if you care to watch it. If you haven't, we said in that show that we were going to have her back for a part 2. And I thought to myself, the time is now. The time is now. Susan Manewich today is going to share some of her personal sojourns as an experiencer, as a contactee, not necessarily an abductee. And I want to talk about that, Susan, but a contactee, lifelong contactee. I know there's a lot of you out there who are experiencers yourselves, you feel yourselves to be, that write to me, and I know to Susan, with so many questions about what is happening. And there are multi dimensions to what it is that is happening to each of us. But today, let's hear from Susan. And, girlfriend, we said, I'm on my laptop in my new space. You can see the new jigs here. And I'm on a laptop. So the screen's not big enough for me to put my notes up. So we said, you know what? No notes. Let's just let it fly. Let's just let it rip. I'm going to let you begin at the beginning, Susan, and give us give us your story. What is your first recollection of contact in this life?
Oh,
In this life.
In this life. Okay. So first recollection. There's two. Okay, there's one I've spoken about previously, and but I would say when I was probably about 2 or 3, I do remember being in my crib and standing up and feeling the beings. I don't remember seeing them, but I remember feeling them, and I remember feeling that they were, that they were just watching out for me. And it was just, it's what I would say is one of my earliest memories. But when I was about 5 years old, that's when I saw a ship, and that's when I saw the beings. And would you like me to get into that and talk about that, Alexis?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I've shared this before, but hopefully I'll share it at maybe a different level of detail. So I was laying in a bunk bed. I had bunk beds with my sister, and I was on the bottom and she was on the top. And I remember laying in bed, and I had woken up slightly. It wasn't like a full awake, even though, I opened my eyes and I could see the room. It was as if like all the cells of my body were were vibrating and magnetized, and it was as if like the cells of my body were alive independently. Like each of them had a consciousness, and each of them were in the process of separating. And it wasn't something that felt terrible. It just felt really odd. And instantaneously, I knew. So as I'm laying in this bunk, and I was facing the window, ironically, which I knew used to not. My head would be next to the window, but for some reason this night, I was facing the window, and as I opened my eyes, I could just feel the beings coming, and I could feel the beings in the ship, and it was as if there was a magnetic, electromagnetic connection in charge that was, merging us together, or connecting us together. And I felt, I would say, slightly excited about that, because it was something that I was waiting for to happen, because of some of my preconception, pre-birth memories of where I was previously. So, as I opened up my eyes a little bit more fully, I then see my sister, who's facing the window, and she's looking out, side the window, at the backyard, and she says, "Oh my God, Susie, what is it?" And, I'm thinking, well, they're the beings. They're, this is our connection here, or mine anyways. And the lights were just beautiful and tremendous. There was a light on the top. It was a double rotation. So there was a like rotation clockwise on the top and counter rotation on the bottom, with this this white band in between, but also with these massive, gorgeous, just like more vibrant than life colors that were in the midsection of the ship. And it was right above the treetop. And it was, just this dynamic, robust, full of life connection that was there. And I do remember my body shifting and changing, and I was feeling as if I was moving through the wall, which I did. And I can say this: I consciously thought to myself, "Oh, this is the first time on this planet, in this body, I'm experiencing this connection, and it feels a little funky, and it feels a bit disharmonious." So my spirit being able to move through my body felt a little disharmonious. And I
Interesting.
took note of that, because that's not how I felt previously on in other lifetimes on this planet. And contact has been a part of just being on this planet for me anyways.
Yours is, I want to say unique, but they're all unique in their own way, Susan. You just in that short period of time describing your first recalled encounter in this life, I hear some semblance of familiarity of other experiences. And yet, the one thing I don't hear too often is such a recollection of connection in previous lifetimes. I've heard it a couple of times, but you, for some reason, seem to have come to this planet with a lot. You talked in the last show about pre-birth memories, and just an incredible amount of recollection, something that I think a lot of people wish they had of previous lifetimes. Why
Mm.
do you think yours is that? Why do you think that you came here so lucid with these memories, including but not limited to your contact encounters? Not just this is more than contact, by the way, you
Yeah.
guys. This is a relationship with these beings, if you will. And what I'm kind of hearing, I don't want to ask a leading question, but it sounds like you have a recollection of being those one of those beings. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, so even though I come in with that, I've had to work really hard to understand my place in this world at this time, and what am I here for? And, one would think that, again, you just come in and you should just know all of these different things, and because you have other memories of other lifetimes. But it's so much more dynamic than that, and it's so much more robust. And I guess also, I've always tried to understand how I really fit in here, and to what degree. And sometimes I realize I don't, and to other degrees I do. So, what is this about? I would say that if it's like this. If you look at a mandala, and you see all of these different expressions that make the circle, that I think some of us come in with pieces and parts of who we are, what we remember. And I would have to go into what I saw before I incarnated in, and I'd have to go into the other part of when I was 21 years old, the creator beings that came literally at the foot of my bed. I didn't know they were creator beings at the time. And what I was shown and experienced there, and what I also believe is actually happening on the planet as a whole right now. So I'm not sure where you really want to take that, because there's a lot to it.
You fit a lot in there. But here's what I love about you, Susan. You do not take your contact encounters out of context with what is going on now, and probably for the whole of your life. We use this word juxtaposition, if you recall, in the last show, juxtaposing cosmological effects with on the ground effects with the encounters, and you can't really separate any of it.
No.
That's what I hear you saying, that they are, I've used this term before, journeyers, there is a symbiosis that exists between us and those beings and reality itself. There's a symbiosis, there's a give and take. Give me your thoughts on that. Not just a give and take, but there's almost like a partnership. Even though there's an unfamiliarity, there's a familiarity. It's a paradox. Woo, it's convoluted, but I'll let you
Yeah.
comment on that.
Yeah, it is a relationship, and it's a relationship that's on a more expansive level, that when you actually are embodied in a body, then you get an opportunity to see what's going on here. You get an opportunity to understand the dynamics of the energy of humanity and the energy of the earth, and to I'd say to be delicate and to be careful with it too, because of the time that we're in this period of change. And I'll share this piece too. So when I was around 22 years old, I had an experience that I've never spoken about a lot of these things that I'm probably going to share publicly, but it's time to do it now. And I would keep it hidden, not because it was a secret, but because there was an honor that needed to be respected with these experiences, and maybe even a little bit of safety that went along with it. When I was about 22 years old, so you keep in mind, I've had contact throughout my life. I had the experience of the Men in Black too, right? And then in my around 22 years old, I have this experience of shambhala, which we know as the inner earth. And it's where I was taken by my hand and brought into the by a young monk, and taken into this cave. And this is when I was shown the floating yogis. And I was also shown a vision of myself older, with a child, and pregnant. And this was years away from me actually having that happen. And I won't get into what I was shown, but it was clear to me that there was a realm that is between the call it the super light realm and the physical. So it's a shared space of these higher level yogis, call them the floating yogis, and what's actually happening on these more dense realms here on Earth. And I was shown humanity as it was going to unfold over a period of time, which it did. I was shown some of what I will call the ills of mankind, and to be mindful and to be aware of some of those ills, to make sure that what I was carrying in me, this child, was protected from that. So that's I had to reconcile that, and I had to say, well, how does that how does that fit in with the creator beings, and how does it fit in with what happened to me when I was younger with the beings, the golden light beings themselves. So and what you really understand is there's a whole interplay of, again, we're going back to the last interview, there's a whole interplay of this density and light, and there's these shared spaces in between, and some are in these, really refined, subtle realms, and some are, in these more dense realms. So, it's not an either or here. And I think one of the best ways that we can help out each other and what others are experiencing is to realize, that this whole thing is at play, and maybe it's just my journey, that I'm here to put all of these pieces together. I think it's a little bit more than that, but yeah. So there's that piece too, and I can get into some of the other aspects.
That's great.
Mhm.
I'd like to. We're not going to switch gears, but well, I want to ask you a question that keeps not bugging me, but it's just a little bit perplexing, and it has to do with physical contact versus non-physical contact. I'm going to bring up a name that you know, and journeyers, you know him too. His name is Barry Littleton.
Mhm.
And Barry told a story. I'm gonna spill the beans because he did not mention your name at the time, but I knew he was speaking of you. Being on board a craft on one particular occasion, he says that his was a physical onboarding, if you will, and yours he felt was non-physical at the time, meaning that you were on board the craft and he saw you. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you
Yeah, I
recall?
do. I do.
Okay. I hope I didn't blow up your spot, but I just find it intriguing. I know this is one thing I really wanted to go into with you because it's, again, you talk about the scope of how these encounters are happening. Everyone's is different, and yet they're common threads. But Barry speaks specifically of seeing you and another gentleman at the time, by the way, and apparently he approached you here in the denser realms, and you had no recollection.
Right.
Sorry, I put you on the spot. We're kind of switching gears a little bit, but it's all
Oh, it's
related.
all
Can you
related.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, Barry, I think this is the story. He heard an interview that I did years ago, and it was in that interview he then remembered he saw me on this craft, and that I think, if my memory is accurate, that I was a light being working with this golden light that was there. And I don't think
Ah,
I had talked about the golden beings. And by the way, I'm going to send you a picture that you can put in
yes, and
your,
post. That would be great.
yeah, because there's
Okay.
people can call them the Council of Nine. I just know them as the beings that I've interacted with, that are part of why I'm here, and that I have a connection to. So he saw me on this ship. I think it was a ship, and in working with this light, that he has a special name for that light.
And as time goes on, I take him the sketch of this engine, and he immediately starts freaking out. He said, "I've seen this. I've seen it." He knew. Now, the other individual you're referring to that I
Don't,
didn't
don't
come
mention
into
her name.
contact,
I don't want you to mention her name. Yeah.
I won't do that. I won't do that. But I didn't know of them till later on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did, and we got to communicating, the first thing I asked is, "I've seen you before, and do you remember this and this?" And they said no. And I was devastated. I thought, "Oh, you can't remember it?" But then I realized that a lot of this is happening on the dream dimensional astral level.
Ah,
So we don't always have a clear retention of memory from our dreams. So
yeah.
that's that kind of situation. But I will say this: when I showed them the illustration, they very much vibrated with it.
If
I
I'm not
can't recall what it is, but as you're describing, and I recall him talking about it, it was
mistaken.
almost like you were suspended within this sort of rotating. Maybe I'll cut a clip into, if I can recall where it is. You were in, Susan, this sort of encasement inside of the craft, and there was, maybe it was made of light, I don't know. We're going to find it and see if we can get it in here. But
Yeah.
yeah. And
Then
there
this,
was another gentleman there. There was another man.
yes, Bill, I think was his name.
We won't. We don't want to blow up Bill's spot. But yeah,
Yes.
I bring that up only because there are so many individuals. I'm talking to all of you experiencers out there, and those who are just interested in this phenomenon, who are so perplexed, Susan, about what is happening to them. They don't have the context that you have. This is why I wanted to have you back on and tell your story and give you the perspective as you're telling the anecdotal side of it, to try to help other experiencers
Yeah.
first know they're not alone. Duh. Not, and I'm not making light of it, but no. Far from it. But also to try to understand the significance of why they're having these experiences. And that's not to say you're having the experiences for the same reason they're having. You're a teacher, for one. And you're telling your story. I know you're helping others. So if that makes any sense. We're kind of all
Yeah.
over the map, guys, but I just
Well,
figured
I
we
think
just
let's bring it back though, because I think that's what's coming through. So it's like, so you've got this these encounters as a child, right? And well, what does that mean? And by the way, as I share this with other people, I grew up in a very normal family. Like my family was not spiritual. They were connected to nature, but they were not like, so here I come along, and my innate memories, and the consciousness that I had as a 5-year-old, and I'm going to tell you a little funny story too, was really weaving in other lifetimes already. That was innate. I didn't even know it was like really another lifetime. It was like, oh, this body as a female 5-year-old, with the density that we have on this planet now, oh, this is what it feels like to have really the energy move through your cells, and have your cells shift in order to make communion with these beings. And that was, again, a first innate thought. There's another little funny part to this too. I tell the story that when I was a kid, probably around 6, I was making mud pies. I loved playing in the mud. I love playing outside, like in the sandboxes, and love the smell of leaves in the fall, and just loved all of it. And I remember seeing the ship as I'm making my mud pie, and I'm like, oh, like, leave me alone. I'm so in love with the earth right now. Like, I don't want to go with you guys, because now I'm figuring out, like, oh, like, this is how you be a kid on this planet, and in this time right now. Okay. Because it's almost like I always had a bit of this super consciousness. And I don't mean like super consciousness in the sense of like I'm better. I don't mean that. It's like a bit of a meta consciousness. Like I always knew that I was more than just this body. Like I came in with that. And so I'm playing with the mud pies, and I see the ship, and just boom, right there, like, comes out of the sky. And I'm like, oh, leave me alone. Like, I just need to be a kid. Like, I'm so in love with my mud pies right now. And I hear, Susan, we know, you're not just like a 5-year-old here, or 6-year-old. We know what you are. And I'm like,
that's something.
No, I don't want to know. So it's like, so it's incredible and it's fascinating, but it just goes to show, the it's not power. It goes to show that state of presence of the spirit that's in the bodies, that it really is transcendent through material. And I think this is what this whole thing, really is about, that we are moving more towards light. I think that density is beginning to shed. And what holds that density, what creates that density, 10,000 things under the sun, and coupled where we're at right now on planet Earth. And I think it would be also helpful for people to to understand too, that the universe, and this is what I was shown in my early 20s with these creator beings that showed up at the foot of my bed, which was really shocking and strange, because I'm like, okay, so I've had experience with these other beings. Now, who are these guys? Like, what's this? And at the time, I was with my boyfriend, so that was a little disturbing. I don't think he was prepared for that.
He was aware, but I'm sorry, did he see these beings as well?
He didn't see them. He was knocked out prior to them appearing at the end of the bed, but
Yeah.
he felt the presence as space-time was opening up and shifting.
Huh.
And he actually leans over to me, and like when people are half asleep and they're talking and they're half asleep, and he's like, "Susan, what's going on?" And then
Interesting. Okay.
boop, he's out, he's out of
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
So he couldn't, I don't want to say he couldn't handle it. He wasn't supposed to have that. That was me, with literally being taken through the cosmos with a being to my left, a being to my right. No ship was involved this time, and I was literally going through the cosmos and traveling faster than the speed of light, and it was joyous. I have to tell you, I was like, when you go on a really fast boat, or you're somewhere where you're safe, but you're going really fast, and it's like, woo. So I was doing that. I was like, whoa, my god, this is incredible, right?
Mhm.
And then I end up in space, like in the cosmos. So I'm back in the cosmos. When I say back in, because I remember, before I incarnated in being in the cosmos, and it's like, well, what is this? Where am I? And I was shown creation, and I was shown um,
Hmm.
the what's that, the bigger story, like meaning not just what's happening on Earth, but what's happening in the universe.
Mhm.
And what I was also shown is that the universe is condensing to give birth to a new universe. So it's a fractal. And the compression that people are feeling here now, well, I feel it too, by the way, I'm not
Mhm.
immune to this stuff, is part of that birthing process. And it's more complex, and yet more elegant and beautiful. So for us to be able to really understand, um, that this is like the culmination of a series of lives that we lived, both in this body, but also perhaps in other bodies and other lifetimes that may not all be just about humans,
Mhm.
right? And go ahead.
I'm smiling, Journey Years in, Susan, because just last week, I believe I had a segment with myself and Linda Moulton Howe. We were on location, excuse me, and she told the story of Jerry Wills. I don't know if you're familiar with his story, a gentleman in our field, but
Uh,
an experiencer as well, not in the classic sense, but in a nutshell, he had an experience in Peru when he was newly married with his bride, in which the bride witnessed him dematerialize after he was given a set of codes at this door. And forgive me because I can't recall the location in Peru, but it's fairly well known. It was a code that was given to him by some of the indigenous people there, that was given to him in secret, a chant, a process that he had to go through. Anyway, he went through the process and was able to access the door. But his wife, his new bride, saw him dematerialize literally in front of her eyes. And he just, what you just described, Susan, is nearly identical to what he described in
oh,
terms of going through the cosmos, landing in this sort of nothingness, but somethingness, all white, and
yeah.
hearing a voice describing how our universe is nestled within another, and that our universe was the experiment of theirs, as well as there being an experiment of something else, almost like the Russian doll idea.
Yes, yes.
I don't believe y'all are the only ones that have had some semblance of this. So there are some people that are given these keys, if you will. In his case, keys to get in the door, and yours, the experience itself, so that process can be shared as you're sharing it
Yes.
with the audience today. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to add that how synchronistic that you're talking about this
No, I
now.
think it's great, and I haven't talked about this in years because I didn't feel it was right timing for it, and now it feels like it's right timing
Good.
to share more about this and the implications. It's almost like, there's other puzzle pieces that drop in, to this, I'll use the word mandala. It's like my new favorite word, lately, as these pieces begin to drop in to, create this more complete picture. And so this is what I worked with Dr. Rudy Shield on, because I was also given, in that experience, given calculation formulas about that the Earth has gone through these, not just the Earth, that the Earth and the universe has gone through these series of pulses, if you will, of life. And this one right now is this big culmination point of all of those larger pulses that have taken place. So this is the culmination of that. And again, I say, so when people feel like they're losing it, we go back to that when we were talking about previously, it's my sense that because of what is coming from deep space with these cosmic rays, and the energy, not just from our sun, but from the central sun as connected to source, that it's like the inception of creation that's way back here somewhere is coming in, and it can be overwhelming for people, and they may again feel like they're losing it, because of that disharmony that's being created. But the disharmony is not, if people can understand this, that disharmony is temporary, and it's there to be able to create more of that neutrality. And here's the ironic part. So before I incarnated in, I remember seeing these golden beings of light, and I make a joke and I would call them the foot soldiers of source, because I don't know what else to call them, but I know I have a relationship to them. And what they were doing is they were getting, before I incarnated in, I saw this, they were getting their instructions from source, but not instructions about, oh, you do this. I mean, it was all just an energy, right? I mean, maybe you could say it was neutrons, protons, and electrons. I mean, if you even want to get geeky and look at it that way. And where there was imbalance, their job was to go to create this balance. And what I've known ever since I was a kid is that I came on this planet to help, like, land this planet and what's going on here as best as possible to help through this shift. It's almost like to help stabilize the energy so it doesn't go, off so wonky. It's probably going to go off wonky, but not so wonky, right? And so that the learnings begin to take place, and that the culmination, and helping people to understand that this is just isn't about different ET races, different interdimensional, different past lives. It's actually about the culmination of the whole thing, and that could be really overwhelming for people, especially people that are like gripping onto that matrix for dear life, and all of a sudden, when the sun pulses and these energies come in, then where are they going to put this? And so like this is where we really got to start allowing ourselves to put these pieces together and have open space for them without judgment.
Without judgment. In this work that you're doing, which I know that you are proactive in every day, do you feel that you're making a dent, forgive the cliche, in effectively letting others know what's happening here? Are you feeling your work, is it effective? Is it becoming effective? Are people more apt to listen and connect with what you're trying to show them?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I listen a lot and I will not take action until I can hear real clearly. Because there's times I take action and I'm like, well, this isn't right, or something will come in. It's like, oh, it's not right timing. So what is God asking of me? What is my own unrealized self asking here? And so I have to really tune in. And a couple of days ago, like I shut out the world and spent like 3 days in meditation, because I needed to hear myself and hear those answers. And so I'll share this piece with you. One-on-one, people are coming to me and asking what's going on and what's happening. And I just shared with a gentleman last night who has had not the same experiences as me, but has had encounters and some past life memories, and he's really trying to make sense of it. So he needs to go to the next level, and that person will be someone that will help others soon. And also reached out to a friend of mine, because I used to do some high level consulting, and reached out to that population. And I said, this needs to get out to people that are in business, because they're going to start having some breakdowns here. And, before we know it, people are not going to know where to put this. Therapists are not equipped to be able to handle this. And, so we need to get this out on a wider scale, and to provide the resources to genuinely help people. So, am I making a difference? I would say I had to make the difference within myself.
Mm-hmm.
To understand these various pieces, because they were still pretty separate, Alexis. I'm not going to lie. They were, it was a little over here, a little over here. And there was memories that I didn't have previously, like we talked about, that started to come back over the last month, of something physical that happened here, on Earth, that was traumatic. And, so this is now being woven into, this bigger story. But I'm in the process of putting together some material to be able to help a wider amount of people through this, because, my sense is that's the bigger picture that's going on here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That's you're a true ambassador for humanity, and a representative. I'm going to call you an emissary from the non-human aspect, and a close to perfect culmination of the two. I think that's great. Here's what I'm going to do, guys. You're going to be like, you're ending the show already. Susan has a hard stop in about 20 minutes. So this is not going to be a full segment, but I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to wind it down, going over to the Patreon after show. I know we've got a lot of patrons over there already, but I would love it for you to come on over. We're finishing up the conversation over there. We've got to do it this way today, but there's a lot of other goodies, including when Susan was on the show about 3 weeks ago, where she talked about her, and I believe you were maybe referencing this a few minutes ago, what I would call a harrowing experience, where she was kidnapped, not by non-humans, but what we believe is a human, and in part because of her experiences. So if you haven't seen that and you're not on Patreon, come on over and join. You want to hear that conversation. But that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to take a pause. We're going to go next door, and we're going to pick up the conversation over there. Susan, before we sign off here, and again, I'm going to apologize again that we've got to really shorten this, but I want to just give a shout out to your fairly new book, Hidden Energy, Tesla-Inspired Inventors and a Mindful Path to Energy Abundance, by Susan Manewich and Jean Manning. And we'll have a link to that book. Susan, I got to get a copy so I can dig in.
I'll send you one.
And then also your amazing, delicious Substack, which is ietevolve.substack.com. Susan, I'm so proud of you. You are really like putting your foot in this, as we say down south here, putting your foot in it. The work that you're doing is just stellar, and it's appreciated. So thank you. Just thank you. Let's go on over there right now, Susan, because I'm looking at the clock and I know you've got to go. So we hope to see you over on patreon.com/higher journeys. Thank you, my dear. Thanks, everyone. Going over there right now. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to watch what's next, plus more to explore. And don't forget to subscribe to Higher Journeys.